Bring in now the recently re-elected House Minority Whip, Maryland Congressman Steny Hoyer, Democrat from Maryland. Nice to see you this morning. Congratulations on the re-election.
Good morning, and thank you.
So earlier this week, we had Tom Cole, a Republican, offer a compromise position here. You had many Republicans, several coming forward and saying there is a way out here. We are willing to give a little bit on taxes. You had Wall Street optimistic that there was an aura of compromise here. And then this is the plan that the White House puts forward, in some ways moving the ball even further away from what the Republicans were asking for here. Is this the way to get to compromise?
Well, look, first of all, one ought to understand that everybody believes we ought not to go off the cliff. The sequester is not a good idea, and if we went off the cliff, it would have substantial adverse effects on the economy. So nobody wants to go over the cliff, including, in my opinion, John Boehner. However, we ought not to hold hostage middle-class tax cuts, and that's what you were talking about, Tom Cole. That wasn't a question of the compromise. It was simply to say, look, we all agree that middle-class taxpayers ought not to get a tax increase on January 1st. Not good for them, not good for the economy. We ought to pass that. The Senate's passed a bipartisan bill that called for that. Tom Cole, the former chairman of the Republican campaign committee in the House of Representatives, said just earlier this week, we ought to pass that. I agree with him. Secondly, the Republicans have agreed that we need to have some sort of balance. More and more Republicans are saying we need to get revenues. You cannot do it simply with cutting spending. Thirdly, I don't think that anybody wants to hurt the vulnerable in America.
No,
I think most in need.
But the question here is on the issue of taxes, for instance. The president proposed tax cuts here, tax increases that went beyond what they discussed before, raising the rates, which would amount to about $960 billion, but then really an additional $600 billion in tax increases that would go on the 2%. On the issues of spending cuts, $400 billion in Medicare and other entitlement savings, but unspecified in next year, not the specifics and not the amounts the Republicans were looking for. And then again, $50 new billion in stimulus spending. Again, where's the compromise here?
Well, first of all, the compromise, we have already cut $1.7 trillion of spending. That seems to be forgotten. We cut it in the Budget Control Act.
That's done. Water gone, done, finished. Where's the future?
Look. No, that's not right. You've done it. You pocket it. Now you want something more. The administration is saying, look, this is what we have done. This is what we've agreed to in a bipartisan fashion. We had an election. We had an election, and the president said we needed more revenues, and we needed more revenues from those most able to pay. He won the election. The American people expanded the majority in the Senate and expanded the numbers of members we had. Now, we've had an election. There were two very distinct points of view put forward to the American public. That is that we needed more revenues, the wealthy needed to make a greater contribution, and the other side said, no, that's not the case. Obviously, the American public made a judgment. We need a balanced plan. The president has agreed to.
Because I think Americans are smart. I think they realize what's happening. They're very smart. They realize what's happening in front of the cameras, and they realize oftentimes there's another story right behind closed doors. And I saw this quote this morning that jumped out at me. This is a fellow Democrat here from New Jersey, Congressman Rob Andrews. This is what he told Politico. Quote, there is the public choreography, and then there is the real choreography. To reach a deal, it has to look like there was a lot of fighting before the deal was reached. I mean, sir, Americans know what you're doing. This is one of the reasons why Americans hate politics, right? What's your message to America?
American hates politics because we have pretense. You're right on that. The pretense is that somehow you can magically do this. Speaker Boehner said the other day that he thinks things have a cost. They do have a cost. But Speaker Boehner voted to cut taxes deeply, revenues, but didn't cut spending.
But all this back and forth, one side versus the other, why can't we put the pretense away and just hit it and quit it and you can go on vacation?
You betcha. We're prepared to do that. The president's prepared to do that. Now, has the president offered a plan? He has. That's what they said they want to. Let's see their plan. Let's see if it adds up. Bill Clinton made it very clear the arithmetic that they're using doesn't add up. They know that we're not going to do certain things. We know they're not going to do certain things. But you cannot get there without a balanced plan. We understand that. You need cuts in spending. You need to deal with entitlements, and you also need revenues. Let's be real. I don't think, frankly, Mr. Boehner, in what he said, absolutely no increase in rates. You want to do it by cutting preference items. But he hasn't come up with his list of preference items. The reason he hasn't come up with his list of preference items because he can't get the votes to do it, and frankly, he doesn't politically want to propose it.
Well, perhaps this is just the first round. This is the starting point. We're here. We'll get there. Hopefully.
Congressman Hoyer, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, sir.